Hello, welcome to our Hungry Fitness community call. We get the pleasure of hearing from Coach Julie, our team's dietitian, and she is a one-on-one coach for the team. She is a wealth of knowledge, and she also works as a dietitian for a school district, right? Is it for the school
Mhm.
district or for school? Yeah, for a school
School
district.
district.
So
Yeah.
she is a busy lady. So she as you've noticed, as we do our Coach's Corner Sunday emails, that coach typically will do the Monday call. And due to Julie's schedule, she's not able to do Monday calls, which is kind of great. So every like month and a half or so, we get to do a Tuesday evening call, which I think is nice for those that maybe work during the day and can do an evening call. It's like half of us can't. I'm in my car, as you can see, doing between, school drop offs or sports drop offs, but hopefully this is a good time for at least some of our community. So for the rest of you, you can watch the recording and then let us know if you have questions after the call. But talking through, what would you want to call this week's call, Julie?
Um, Silencing the food noise.
Yeah, that's kind of what we were discussing. So for those of you
Yeah.
that haven't read the email yet, go check your Sunday email. And then I'm going to make Julie the host so she can share her screen if she would like, and we'll go from there. Cool. Thanks
Okay,
for joining.
awesome.
And if you guys have questions, ask them, please. Please ask them. Don't be shy.
Yeah, for sure. So I should probably have pulled up the newsletter because it looks so pretty and I could have had that right in front of me. Maybe I'll do it while I'm talking.
You can if you want. Yeah.
Yeah, just pull up my email.
But also,
Um, so we can have something nice to look at. But so, going into, I just really wanted to touch on those words, food noise, in the newsletter this week. And here, let me share my screen, make sure I have all my folks closed out. Share screen. Share this one. All right. Um, so with food noise, quieting the food noise, what does that mean? I think that those are words that we've been hearing a lot lately in diet culture because there are certain medications that say that that is what they do. They quiet this food noise. And I think that it is a very general term. And what does it mean? What does it even mean? I think a lot of people are agreeing with it. They're like, yes, this is what it's doing for me. But why? And is that what I need? Is that something that I would need to be taking in order to do that, or can I do that on my own? So I just first off, like, what is it and what does it mean? We make so many decisions on what to eat every single day. And I think that between decision fatigue and the amount of options that we have, which is amazing, like so grateful that we live in a world where we can have you know, pasta for dinner one night and the next night, like, um, bean lentil soup. Like, there's just so many things at our fingertips that long time ago we didn't have all of that access, right? But it also leaves for a lot of options for people to choose from. So I think that's a big part of food noise, as well as the opportunity to eat. So not just which one do you want, but like which one do you want on a grand spectrum? Like, not like, oh, what two restaurants do you want to eat at in our town? You have 20 choices, and all of them could even deliver to your house. Do you want to eat at your house? Do you want to eat at the restaurant? Like, all of things are happening. Um, so in addition to the food noise from that perspective of purely information, I think that there's a lot of food noise that we look at as cravings or urges. And that kind of is like a bad thing to us that we shouldn't be feeling, maybe. And we get to that point where we're like, I'm just going to have one of everything because we don't want to restrict ourselves and we don't want to really dial in what we want to have. If you ask a little kid, and I love talking about kids and how they pick and choose food because it's just so, they're so intuitive. If you're like, if a little kid goes, I want ice cream, you're like, well, I don't have ice cream. I've got a chocolate chip cookie and I've got a brownie. So you can have one of those. I don't have ice cream. And then they go, oh, okay. I don't want anything then. Like as an adult, like I would be like, oh, well, give me one of those options then because I'm definitely going
Yeah.
to have a sweet or a dessert. And they're very much like, this is what they wanted to have and that's not there. And that was their priority. That's what they really wanted. So that leads me into just my suggestions. Um, I feel like getting down to the nitty gritty of your values, your priorities, however you want to look at them, in terms of food. So we talk about priorities a lot in life, and I very rarely hear anybody talk about them when it comes to what how we choose our food. Like, you know, it's very people will say, "What do you like? What do you like?" But we can like lots of things. But this goes a little deeper than that. What are you looking for? How are you going to be satisfied with your meal? Not just what do you like? Because I think that when we look at uh, what we like, it leaves out all these other components, like, for example, health goals. Just because I like a chocolate chip cookie doesn't mean that's all I should eat and I should have it for breakfast and lunch and dinner every day because I have all of these other priorities that take precedence in how I pick and choose food. So,
I think, Julie, that just makes me like think of, I like to read, but I probably wouldn't spend every day all day reading because I also need to provide income for my family. I also need to move my body. I need to have some social connection. So, like, yeah, I like to read and I want to work that into my week. That's important to me. But I still have to do all the other things because I have goals and I have responsibilities and so it's not like we just do what we like to do all the time either outside of
absolutely,
food, right? So
for
food's
sure.
the same. Like, what do we enjoy? But then also, what are our goals and what are our needs to thrive?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, and I think, I don't know, from my perspective, we got somebody admit. From my perspective, I think that I've never heard anybody talk about priorities when it comes to food.
Yeah,
Like
we do in our
priorities when it comes
lives
to
all the
life,
time.
for sure.
Or like
Yeah.
spending habits.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Money, priorities, where's your money going? Absolutely, but never with
Mhm.
food. So these are just some examples, and I'm sure there are other ones. Taste is a given, right? People are always like, are you a salty, sweet person? What do you like to have? So that's just kind of a general one that you can go for, but it might not always be like, I consider myself a sweet person, but I really do love savory food. It just depends on what I'm looking for in that moment. Most of my meals are savory, but like I do enjoy having something sweet. Um, Texture is a big one. I think that this is one that people overlook when they try to do, um, a lot of times when people are in a deficit and they're looking for alternative foods to kind of fill a void, if they have to omit something that's caloric dense, I'm just going to say chips. And they're like, oh, like
Mhm.
I don't want to have chips with lunch, so I'm going to do something that is, you know, less calories. I'm gonna have carrots. Okay. So carrots and chips, both crunchy for sure. But the crunch is different. Like, are you getting what you need to have in terms of texture from a carrot that you're getting from a chip? Probably not. So I think that that's an important one to look at, especially when we're looking at like substituting foods or what we're enjoying. Um, Appearance and variety. Um, this is another big one that I think just in our busy society, we look past. Are you plating your food? What does it look like? Is it satisfying? It doesn't need to be some like fancy, crazy drizzle on a super cool plate and like whatever, but I think that having like a plate of food and getting that visual of eating it alone is enjoyable. I will tell you some of my most delicious bowls of stuff look awful. They don't photograph well, which is probably why I don't share them on social media. But they are super delicious. And from my eyes perspective, very voluminous, lots of bites. And that's the kind of stuff that I look for in a nice, like, good full plate of food or bowl. And that kind of goes into presentation as well. I didn't mention color in that one, but that's a great way to work in veggies.
Mhm.
If you had potatoes and chicken, it's going to be kind of bland looking, right? Unless you're like really seasoned up your chicken. If you have your chicken grilled, there's a lot more color and texture and variety. But I think that adding color, especially from veggies, is a great way to have that extra impact of the visual of like what you're going to eat. Um,
Yeah,
and again,
definitely makes it more exciting.
yeah. And is that important to you? And somebody might think, no, that's not important to me. But how many pictures on Instagram do you save of like, oh, that bowl of food looks really good, or that recipe looks really good? We eat with our eyes, and that is why, you know, things like Pinterest and stuff and cookbooks, people still buy cookbooks, and like who uses a cookbook? We've got the internet right at our fingertips every single day because we love that visual. We love to see it, to see how it should look after it's cooked. And I think that we look past that when we eat on a daily basis just because our lives kind of take over. Smells, huge, right? Like when we cook food, there's lots of smells and aromas going on, and it's appetizing and it makes us ready to eat. Um, I I don't know what it is with me, but anytime I walk past like a steakhouse outside, especially if the sun is out, I'm like, I'm on vacation. Like it just sends me back to like being somewhere on vacation. And I think that that's important. Like it's important to have those kinds of smells in your home, and I think when we aren't cooking or preparing food, we don't get that a lot. Yes, you can smell the food after it's cooked, but that anticipation of eating is also a huge factor of being satisfied with the meal that you're about to consume. Volume, I did mention this already. I love bites. So I like big, voluminous
Me
bowls
too.
of food. And I think, whether you are eating at maintenance or eating in a deficit, you can still achieve this. You can still get a lot of volume on your plate and lots of bites. Um, the more caloric dense foods that you include, the smaller your plates are going to look. Um, so think about that. If you like volume, you need to add some high volume foods on your plate all the time to be satisfied. Health goals. And again, I like this with priorities because I think this kind of dives into a little bit of the, oh, well, if you want to have it, you should have it, which I think that there is something to that. But if you give yourself all the permission to have all of the things that you think in that moment are going to give you the joy and the satisfaction that you're looking for, you might never achieve your health goals. So all of these
Mhm.
priorities have to have a place in order for you to, be successful and be sustainable. And then special occasions is another great one. Uh, and I use this example a lot with the holidays. When the holidays are around and you are out in public, chances are there's going to be lots of opportunities to eat more caloric dense foods, mostly sweets, let's say, especially if it's around Christmas time. So if that's the option, and okay, it's Christmas time and I always have, you know, um, my grandma's chocolate peanut butter bars, and they're my favorite thing ever. And you're at a party and there's a bowl of Reese's cups. Yes, those are similar flavors, but you're so looking forward to this special food that might be caloric dense, but you get it one time a year. And there's also other things that are happening that are going to give you satisfaction and joy when you eat this food. So why are you going to, you know, lose sight of your other goals or make that less impactful by consuming foods that aren't really as important in that time and you can get it at any time out of the year, right? So priorities, if special occasions are coming up or they're around, I think it makes it even more important for you to hone in on your priorities, knowing if you have health
Mhm.
goals in mind and if you have, all these things lined up for that special occasion, it's more important for you to balance out your calories for the week and eat the peanut butter chocolate bars that your grandma made rather than having Reese's cups at a party 2 nights before or whatever. So, and these are just some examples. I don't know if you guys can think of any more or have any other ones that you think like might be relevant, but I think these are a good like baseline to start to help you kind of wrap your head around like what's important to me in terms of food.
Yeah, I would say just like it's really helpful to go go through that list and write some notes. Like look at
Hmm.
that list and look at like taste, like what, and I like to think for me personally, I would kind of take my day and block it out. So like breakfast, what am I drawn to for breakfast, sweet or savory? Because for me, it varies by meal typically. Like I don't like a sweet dinner, but sometimes I really like a sweet breakfast, especially if it's early in the day. Like if I'm having like a early morning breakfast, maybe before I go to a spin class, I don't like to eat something super savory before I'm going to go work out. But if it's post workout, I love savory and I'm like, just, I can handle that a little bit better. So thinking that through and thinking through just, okay, maybe I like a sweet breakfast. Okay. That's helpful to know. So how can I make that sweet breakfast align with my health goals? And also how can I make it so for me, I've had sweet breakfasts that are calorically dense. And then I end up overeating later in the day because there's just not enough volume in my breakfast.
Mm.
So that's something I've learned. I really need to have more volume in my breakfast. Um, or I end up feeling a lot more hungry later in the day. So whether it's sweet or savory, that's something I really prioritize. And I've just learned through trial and error, right? Um, I I feel better eating maybe, and this isn't even super high volume, but maybe protein pancakes with like berries. That feels like a lot more bites than a bowl of oatmeal for me.
Mm.
So just thinking that through, um, and then texture wise too, like like eating with a spoon, it doesn't feel like as filling versus like eating with a fork and like chewing a lot more. So
Mhm.
thinking through those textures, what feels best for you in the moment, and then like what are your food choices later in the day, and how does that align with your health goals, but also with enjoyment? Like what's in, what do you enjoy? I
Yeah.
don't love like steamed broccoli for breakfast, but I could eat that for dinner and love it. So thinking through time of day, I think can be very helpful too. And then as you like write those notes, taking Julie's list and writing notes, kind of maybe just block out your paper with like breakfast, lunch, dinner, and take notes for each of those meals. And that should help you get some ideas for what types of meals to make. And then from there, you could think through, okay, what like portions are going to be optimal for me with whatever stage that I'm in. And that is like a really great way. We talk about pre-logging. That's a really great way to get like a tentative plan for your day. And I
Mm.
love to plan, but I also love to be flexible with my planning. So I think if you have a template, you can always pivot, but at least you have like a blueprint for what's optimal for you based off of what you like, meal timing, preferences, and then also health goals. So I love that, like
Yeah.
thinking it through in that way. I haven't done that before.
And I think it's important to remember that it's not a one size fits all. So like looking at this, I know I
Yeah.
have like savory, sweet, or salty, and you just gave a perfect example. Like you don't have to, I say I'm a sweet person, but I eat tons of savory food. I think of that in terms of like at the end of my meal, sometimes I want something sweet. And that's kind of, where I'm drawn to those
Mhm.
as like treats. Like I want something sweet if I have a treat. I could pass up a big decadent meal. So it's not very black and white. It is very individualized and every person is going to be different. So like ironing out, like you said, like your meals, um, eating with a fork or a spoon, like all of that kind of stuff. And even thinking about like some of those health goals, if you're struggling with hunger, to be more satiated, you need more solid food. So, that
Mhm.
might not be something that falls under your preferences, but like that's something from a health perspective that like, okay, how can I work this in? I need more texture and like more solid food in order to be more satiated at the end of my meal. So what could I throw into breakfast or lunch or whatever it may be? Um, but yeah,
Yeah, and trial and error is huge, right? So
absolutely.
writing that out, pre-logging your day and making some notes, trying it out, like maybe you end up way overeating as you're making dinner. Okay, well, should I have made dinner earlier? I know that's something I've learned. I would way rather eat dinner at 4:30 than 7:30. Like
Hmm.
5 to 6 is ideal, but if it's the option of a 4:30 dinner or an after 7 p.m. dinner, I will choose that 4:30 dinner every time because once I have it, I feel pretty good the rest of the day. But if I'm
Hmm.
like trying to push to after 7, I still need to eat. So I end up eating two
Mhm.
dinners when I do that. So just
Yes.
keeping that in mind too, like what timing feels really good to me. Would I, do I like to have 4 meals throughout the day, or do I like to have three really big meals throughout the day? I think the more we think about these things, the more successful we are, because we really learn to work within like what's best for us and our individual needs. And I know Julie does a lot of work with her one-on-one clients on this, just thinking that through. Like there are so many ways to achieve a goal, especially when it comes to physique goals, health goals, fitness goals. But if we can align our systems and our habits, like if we can, mostly, especially systems, if we can align those to our natural preferences and lifestyle, then we're going to be way more successful. So the more you can think about what that is for you, the more the more quickly you'll be able to kind of align those habits and systems with your natural preferences. And that's where we see sustainability, right? That's where it becomes truly like a lifestyle shift.
Yeah, I love that. And I love systems. I talk about that all the time. And that is a perfect example of like, why? Why do I need to do this? Because with something like food noise, and just with the description that I kind of explained, we get really mad at ourselves thinking we're not disciplined enough. I'm not disciplined enough to pass up this
Or
dessert table. I'm
motivated.
not, yeah, like it's my brain and it's my problem and I need to be more disciplined and to say no. And like, no, what systems do you have in place? And this is a great opportunity for you to kind of dial in those systems and see like, okay, what do I need to focus on a little bit more? What are some things that I can change and help support me and my brain and my body? Because it's not just discipline, it's not just motivation. Like that's just, I think that's one of the very like rough ways that we look at it. You're just not disciplined enough. You just have to do it. You just have to say no, or you just have to eat this little portion. Well, no, you don't.
Yeah, we can only make so many decisions in a day, right? So the more
Mhm.
we have kind of automated, the easier that's going to be. So like taking this time to think those things through will help you have just some automation going. Maybe, then you have like 2 to 3 meals that support your goals, support your support you feeling satiated throughout the day, are good on like a texture standpoint, good on a volume standpoint, that like those are my 2 to 3 automated breakfast options that I know I'm going to feel really good eating and I enjoy. Same with lunch, same with dinner. And it could be as simple as like a template. Like I like to have like 3 maybe to 4 breakfast meals I make, but like for dinner, it's more flexible. I have a meat. I know I want a couple different vegetables to add some color to my meal. I know I want a carb, whether that's rice or potatoes or pasta. And then some healthy fats, whether that's through dressing or avocado or nuts and seeds. Um, it's fairly easy to just make a meal or a dressing. I think I said that. It's
Mhm.
fairly easy to make a dinner that tastes pretty different every night, but kind of has that general template that I follow.
Same. I
So yeah,
kind of
I
do the
think,
same thing with dinner.
yeah. And then that allows you to be flexible and make it work for kind of what you need within that day.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, Julie, on eliminating the food noise, like thinking of, what weight loss drugs are obviously huge right now and in the media. And I think those eliminate the food noise by just really like taking your hunger way down, which brings
Yeah.
cravings down, which is
Yep.
which is which is very helpful when it comes to
Appetite suppression.
discipline, right? With
Yeah.
food. Like if you're not hungry, think about when you're sick. It kind of feels like that. You have no appetite. And so the downside of that when you're sick, if you haven't had weight loss drugs, I think it feels very similar. When you're sick, you're not really wanting to grab high protein foods. You're not really wanting to grab a lot of vegetables. You're just not really that hungry, which your calorie intake is going to be lower, but potentially so is your nutrient and protein intake.
Exactly.
And so our goal, and whatever like you decide to do, we're not super worried about that, but our goal is to give you options. So maybe you want to lose body fat and you don't want to be on a prescription drug for that. Maybe you want to come up with some other solutions. And so eliminating the food noise, like in this is another option for that. Or, um, yeah, and I think just like thinking about these things can be really helpful so that you can feel a little bit more control over your cravings because you are more satisfied throughout the day. You are getting volume because you like to eat more volume. So you're not as hungry. You're not thinking about food all day. You're eating a balanced plate so that you're more satisfied and you feel really good. And you're getting plenty of fiber. So digestion is on point. So just like knowing that there are some options for you and hopefully giving you a solid place to start.
That's,
So thank you for that. Yeah.
with appetite suppression, that does not teach you how to nourish your body, and it doesn't teach you how to be happy with what's on your plate and to to fuel and to feel good and make good selections. All it does is eliminate the desire to want to make those selections.
Mm-hmm.
So like you said, most of them are beneficial because it puts you in a caloric deficit. So I just like this this approach. I think just helps you to, you know, kind of create a toolbox to pull from, so that you can kind of look and make choices and not just, you know, not just rely on the fact that like, oh, well, I'm not hungry, so I'm not eating, and that's that's the answer. So,
Yeah. Yes. So please ask questions if you have them.
yeah,
And yeah, thank you so much for joining this week's call. I look forward to next Monday. Thank you, Julie, for hosting.
you're welcome. Thanks for coming, everybody.
And have a great week, everyone. And we'll talk to you soon.